Or if you want it, I don't.
I wish it with us. Yeah, sure. Ross. Yeah, Ross is going to bring it up. He's firing us up right now. There we go. All right, I learned going on a Maranatha trip, you start on time. No, so thanks for coming, and we'll maybe take down the main lights, David. Oh yeah, and behind there we go. So so thanks for coming, and feel free to leave at any time, because these memories and pictures are more important to us that went than you. But no, I know there's other things, but we're going to try to move it along. And if you have questions, we'll answer those the best we can. And this is a little bit like, let's see, what would this be like? An amateur with the professional sitting in the congregation, because Susan and David know way more than I do about this, but it'll be fun to share. So I know that says I love Zambia, and that's the colors in their flag. So, but let's start with prayer, and then I have a few comments, and then we'll get rolling here. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that first of all that you love us so much, and even though we live in an imperfect world, that we have opportunities to see new things and new people, and all created by you. And what all of us had hoped for as we went to Zambia is that we left it a better place. And but we are happy to share the memories and the things that went on there, because I know there were people in this congregation that were praying for us and provided funding and encouragement. So be with us this afternoon in your name. Amen. So I had great plans to keep a journal when I went on this trip, and about 3 days in, it ended. And it takes you about 3 days to get to Zambia from here, so that was about it. So but I did write a few things down right here at the back of my book. So every single thing on this trip is new. When you're on a plane for 10 hours or 13, and you're here, there, and everywhere, you are anticipating the next meal that they're going to serve you on the airplane. And even if you're not hungry, you eat it, and you land, and the humidity hits you, and they're driving on the other side of the road, and there's different car models, and there's 6-year-olds and goats and motorcycles along the road with the semis, and no one is freaking out or, get that kid away from the road. And their bug spray is called Doom, and their cookies are Eat Some More, EATSUMMOR. So I liked that play on words. But literally my head was like on a pivot, because everything is just so different, and one rain changes the dirt road into a mud road, and you can't get out to the school. And so anyway, I could go on and on. I could probably talk an hour about the little anecdotes and things that I saw. But the one thing that brought a smile to my face the first day we went out to Solace School was there's a lady next to the cook shack, and across her shirt was Walla Walla Community College. And I just traveled 9,500 miles, and there's there's the shirt I should have because that's where I graduated from. But no, she has it in Zambia. So anyway, we'll get rolling, and we have a couple of mics up here, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed the trip.
I think. Get the other mic. Or we can use the same one, I suppose. Anyway. Start.
Here's another mic.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, when we first decided that we were going to go to Zambia, I was shocked when Kim walked in. I was sick, I think, that day and didn't go to church. And he walks in the door and he says, "I want to go to Zambia." I said, "You what?" I couldn't believe my ears. He said, "Yeah, Susan got up and talked about Zambia today, and I really want to go to Zambia." I said, "Well, we need to consider that and do that." So we started making arrangements and decided to go to Zambia, and Cherie went with us. And Susan had indicated that the kids, we were going to be there on Christmas, and Susan had indicated that the kids had no way to keep their school things together. And there were so many of them, they're just cramped up next to each other. And these kids have nothing. I mean, they're so poor. The need is so great there. And so she shared that maybe taking over some backpacks, which they couldn't get there. So Cherie and I went online, naturally, to Amazon, and found backpacks, the cheapest there. And these were the little nylon ones with the drawstrings. So we decided there were 1,300 kids in this school. They split the day in half, so half the kids went in the AM, half went in the PM. And when you see the school, you wonder, how on earth did they house that many children? It still baffles me. But we decided to make their Christmas a little sweeter, because these kids just don't get much. And so Susan has connections there, and she started arranging to get stuff to fill the backpacks. Cherie and I had raided the dollar store of all the erasers and all the stuff, pencil sharpeners, whatever we could find. We just filled our cart with them and took those over as well. But then we ran into the problem, how do we get them there? So we thought, oh boy. And we were flying out Southwest?
No.
Anyway, Delta. We flew Delta out of here. And you have to pay for the luggage. But we knew we had to get these backpacks there. So Becky and Ron took some, and then we had some mailed to Virginia to somebody that was going, Mark Bramlett, and then we took the remainder. So we took probably about 1,000, close to 1,000 backpacks. Mm-hmm. So we figured out how we were going to get the luggage. So we went to the Goodwill, got some disposable luggage, filled these things with backpacks. I don't know what they thought when they opened the suitcases up. But anyway, we got the backpacks there. And it was a lot of rigmarole, but we made it. And then we just left the suitcases, or most of them, there. But then we had probably about 3 nights, I think, after dinner, we set up the tables with all of this stuff on it, and we had an assembly line, and we filled all these backpacks. And we distributed them the 24th, the day before Christmas. The kids that came back got backpacks, and they got a Bible, and they were so happy to get a Bible of their own. That was the highlight. So, do you have anything to add?
Besides knocking the mic around. It was just really neat. It's always great to give kids something, especially on Christmas. Christmas is a holiday that they get off, but they don't really give gifts. Yeah. So, okay, addressing the national language of Zambia. 72, according to Becky's research. 72 languages in Zambia. so we basically cleaned the, English is the business language of Zambia. And so, yeah, I think we pretty much cleaned the bookstore out of the local language Bibles to give to the younger grades, and then but everybody got a Bible. There was enough. We made sure there were enough for every single student, and nobody was left out. I think we even had a few left over to give away. We made sure I think also the teachers all got Bibles as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh, and that's something else we did was we took teacher supplies over. They needed books for the libraries,
Dictionaries,
or for the library, and dictionaries,
soccer balls,
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Balls and sports stuff, because they just don't have anything.
I got them a couple of
So-
chess sets.
So the kids could start playing chess.
Chess sets.
And we left a bunch of stuff for the teachers as well.
So we've got some slides. We'll kind of work through them here. If you guys have any questions, just ask. So
At
these
the
are,
end.
these are the backpacks, and all of those things are filled with stuffed backpacks. And we did a little bit grade. So like the younger grades we put certain stuff in their backpacks, the middle grades we put certain stuff in their back. So it was kind of a little bit more age appropriate. We also put a snack and a toy in each one, so it wasn't all school stuff. So, and there's some of the things we filled the backpacks with. We just had assembly lines going, just stuffing things. And I love this picture particularly because we were there over Christmas. Somebody brought a nativity kind of panel graphic thing to hang up. I love that the wise men are bringing their gifts to Jesus, and then here we're preparing gifts for the kids in Sala. So, and the president of the conference came down to share this event with us. You can see the kids lining up in the back already. And here's just a few of the pictures of the kids getting their Bibles and backpacks. We had to show them kind of how to put them on because I don't know that they'd had experience with these kinds of backpacks before. Some of them had like the big traditional backpacks, but these are kind of a little different. We had to let them in a few at a time because the church just wouldn't hold all of them all at the same time. So, and this is where we gave the stuff out to the teachers. So, okay. That's Ron and Becky.
I look important there. Yeah, look at that. Not that. You have the clicker? Oh. Yeah, that's right. Looks like that's the Chow building too. So I was ready for a meal too, keeping it on while I ate. So, yeah, Becky getting her volunteers organized.
The program you started with because somebody forgot to bring your suitcases.
Yeah, Becky's suitcases and my suitcases didn't show up for 3 days, but there were other families there that theirs didn't show up for 5 days. So, but we did have to adjust a lot of things because those bags didn't show up, and then there were so many kids that it was.
So the first day they had 350 kids, and we had no idea. We had no idea that there was going to be so many. I mean, we kind of did, but we kind of did. So anyways, but it was, so we didn't have our stuff. And so we just had, the volunteers that were all there. It was like, we're just going to make it work. And we're just going to change our games. We're not going to play that game because it won't work anyway. And then there was a lady there that had done VBS before. She had excellent ideas on how to do it, what we could do, maybe new songs we could sing. And it was just so fun to kind of like make it happen on the fly. So we did.
Every email from Susan was somewhere in there was flexibility. As we led up to this trip, there was always flexibility in there.
Right.
And
So the first day we had 300, 350, the next about the same, and then we waited 2 days, and then the next day that we had VBS, we had 200. And it was like, oh, we didn't have 200, we only had 200. And we could do some of the games and some of the crafts that we had when our luggage finally came. And then the last day we had almost, 600 plus, maybe 700 kids. And it was insanely fun.
So we arrived at Sala School, which was about an hour and 15-minute drive from where we were staying, and 45 minutes of that was on the dirt road. And we went out there on a Friday. These benches were all still wrapped. The church hadn't been used. You can see some of the workers, they had their tent in there. And so we unwrapped those, and because we were going to get ready to have church for the first time. And then, of course, we had VBS in there. So there we got going. And so that was our start of our slim day there. But it built up after that. And if you, so these kids that were on this trip, we'll talk about them real quick. I don't know, Nebraska, Tennessee, Georgia. These were the most amazing kids. If you think it's hopeless for our young people in the U.S., it's not the case, because I know there's at least 10 of them that are amazing, and they were on our trip, and they helped us do skits for VBS.
If there was anything we needed, if we said, can you do this, it was yes.
Yeah,
It
and
was just yes.
so it was, but we'll, Maranatha puts up wonderful buildings that will last a long time, blocks and steel, because the termites are busy in Zambia, and so you can't mess around with the wood. Oh, okay, excellent, yeah, awesome,
I
yeah.
thought it was pretty the way it was.
It was,
I
yeah,
liked it.
and yeah, so it kept filling
Look at all
up,
those
and
kids all in there, packed in there. Oh, so cool. You know, I think they had to kick some out. They were all
we had 50 kids. We had 50 kids on the floor,
in
front of the pews on the big day, and then they kicked some of those older ones out.
Yeah.
So there's a way to describe when something's full is called minibus full. And minibuses aren't full until there's cheeks pushed up against the glass.
Yeah.
They always just room for one more. So Africans don't know about personal space. I mean, they can be on top of each other, beside each other. There was 140 kids in first grade sitting on the floor with no desks when I first visited the school.
Another thing I loved is when we did crafts. Oh yeah, that's the longest. We did the Grand March. That's one of the longest Grand Marches I've ever been in. I couldn't even see the end of the line, and but when the kids, we had coloring sheets. We didn't have enough colored pencils, so we'd give them 2. And the last day we only gave them 1, and nobody said, "Hey, I only got 1." It was like they shared. And they're coloring on their laps. They're coloring on their laps or turning around on the bench that has slats and coloring and moving their page so that they could color. So it just, I don't know, I think that's kind of neat.
So this is what happens when it rains a little bit on the road to Sala. And I think that what we were doing there was pretty good draw to the people, but you get a stuck bus, that really draws a crowd there. That's high entertainment, because there's some pictures later on of the kids coming. And so a lot of those 6-year-olds along the road are now pushing your bus, and there's no parents out there telling them to get away. But it was, we got unstuck, and it was all in the experience. You can see that one of the school teachers there, he's in a dress shirt and a vest and everything, and he's out there and help them out. And so everybody, here comes the kids for the stuck buses, and yeah. And
We were the two buses that were there were the only vehicles there, other than maybe some of the Maranatha vehicles. Everybody walks there. They walk to school.
so, but kids would run out from their houses along the road and wave at you, and we probably took hundreds of pictures of kids, but boy, it is so different. So
Let me tell about
yeah,
this.
go ahead.
So I was in Clarkston in the man. I hope I'm not talking too much, but in Clarkston there was a lady that was doing big bubbles, and I said, I want to know what you're doing. And so I approached her and talked to her, and she gave me her recipe. And so when we were talking about it, Ron said, let's do that. Let's make some giant bubbles. And so we brought, and the secret ingredient, you can ask me later what the secret ingredient is. And so that last day when we had all those kids, and they were all on the school ground, they were waiting to, what were they going to do? Have a special, huh?
Yeah.
For the backpacks, is that, and all the kids were there, and they wanted us to entertain them for like 30 minutes or do something, and so we said, let's do bubbles. And so Ron and this other guy who's 6'11" or whatever,
6'7".
he they got out and they did these bubbles, and it was kind of fun.
So that guy Tyler right there, those of you that know Jack Larrabee, that's his grandson right there. That's Pam's son. And there's the back of Becky's head right there, if you want to know. But this building back here is the next project, right, in May. That's going to be faculty housing for Solace School. So if it's not too late, right, to join another okay. All right. So, all right. Yeah, I got to retire.
And I have to say, do you see all those skirts? Do you see all those skirts that they have? All the different colors. I bought like tons of material, and they're all different. It's so cool. And they call them chitanges. And I have to tell you, the first time I wore it, I went to breakfast in it, and I walked out of it. I left it behind. You got to make sure that. So I have mine pinned so it won't walk out. But they don't pin it; they just kind of stick it on there. And anyways,
somehow they're better at keeping them on than. So, all right. So here, Ron has to get sidetracked with this lady here, Millie. She's been on a lot of Maranatha trips before, and she is by herself on this one. But the best thing about her is she lives in Chunky, Mississippi. So that was the best, Chunky, Mississippi. But
no, let me tell you one story about
yeah,
her.
tell her story.
Oh, I love
little
it.
Story.
We had gone at the very end on a safari, and we were going to go see Victoria Falls, and she had her Big 5 T-shirt on that had the Big 5. Isn't that what they call them? The animals. Anyways, and we were hot, and it was sticky, and we had to walk a long way. And I said, Millie, how you doing? And she said, this is what I came for. It was so cute.
But yeah, let's see where me walking across the floor. So we're gonna talk. I told stories. Yeah, we're pouring the bucket. So we're using an interpreter for the story, and you make it as the best you can. But well, VBS though, we had a couple of miracles. Our suitcases didn't show up for 3 days, but 2 of them had been left out in the rain, and we had it full of paper products for VBS, things that we had printed, blank paper for crafts. And our clothes were mildewy and wet. But none of the paper products were damaged beyond use. There was some wet, and then the last day when so many kids showed up, I'd asked 3 artists to do coloring sheets, and just do what you want to do. My coworker's husband that drew me a coloring sheet had made this tree, so it divided it into 4 sections. And he put an elephant in one corner, and he put a giraffe in another one. So when we saw that we had 400 copies, and this isn't it. It's just an example of it was into quarters, an apple. Yeah, You want the head? You want the bottom of the rabbit? So we had a giraffe, we had an elephant, whatever. So we had some of the older kids cut those into fours, and now we all of a sudden had 700 copies.
It was like the loaves and the fishes.
And
We had enough
it
for
was,
everybody.
you know, if we'd only had 300, we wouldn't have had enough. But he just by chance had drawn his into quarters, and we were just in a few minutes able to turn 100 copies into 400 copies, and it was like, oh, that's I like that miracle right there. So anyway, but we get hung up on these and they're again our great help, and they like to sing.
This is one of the crafts that kids loved. They were the scratchy, things. And we use a toothpick, and
Yeah,
they thought that was cool.
worked out really well because
Skits they did, the kids
Jackson, I'm glad that he was up right there because that was a really hard floor. He passed out on the boat, and the boat floor flexed, and this would not have flexed here, but he was a good kid. We took big parachutes and used those when we had.
Get past that. Look terrible.
Yeah,
Go.
and
Go.
we're.
Oh, I love that
We
one.
did Jesus in the storm with the plates, so we had lots of paper plates. There's Darl with her new friends, and yeah, that's pretty special picture there. Yeah. So what we did is we had some of the older ladies there, like 20, color them. We brought them back to the artist and framed them. So there's the building. Who's talking about that? Oh, hey, the guy that knows the building the best.
As I said earlier, when we first visited the place, the 1,300 kids were sharing, they call it hot seating, only there were no seats. The kids were sitting on the floor. 140 kids in first grade, just packed in like sardines. How do you learn in an environment like that? So desperately needed more classrooms. So we were the second project to come and work on classrooms, and we're building 8 new classrooms. So we were laying block on a second block of 4, and there was another building that was already built up that we were eating our meals in and stuff, and our team is continuing to finish those. And ultimately, the master plan will be for 8 more classrooms added to the 8 that we've already built. Staff housing is a huge issue, and so we've got structure up, and a group in April is going to work on 6 single-family, like their little apartments that are hooked together, a 6-plex, and we're going to build 2 duplexes, I think, beyond that. And so anyways, there's lots of need. There's the whole building there. Luther Finley from Northern California was the construction lead on the block laying. He was just with us in South Carolina last week working on a roof project, and we've drilled a well there. We're putting in 2 water tanks to provide water for the staff housing and for the campus. And our local team continues on with the project even when volunteers are not there. Any questions? Yeah, they do have uniforms. Yeah, that's typical in Africa. It's a British thing, I believe. Yeah, Susan said the education is free. They call them grant aid schools, where the teachers pay for, or the government pays for teachers' salaries, but you have to provide housing for them. This is an Adventist school, and they can select teachers. Probably 80 to 90% of them are Seventh-day Adventists. The head teacher is an Adventist. That's the principal, and but the uniforms and the school supplies, they have to come up with the money for that. The kids do. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. Question. Are all of our projects overseas Adventist? Yes, they are. Yeah. Well, is your question asking whether we build overseas just for Adventists, or do you have to be an Adventist to go? I'm not sure. Yes, we're a responsive ministry of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, so we're an independent ministry, but we respond to urgent requests from the church, and so we assess the need and decide, can we fulfill it, and we go and raise money and then build. So everything we build is a gift to the Adventist Church. Oh, anybody can go. If you've got a pulse, you can be a volunteer. Yeah, that's the only requirement. If you're breathing, we don't take anybody that's not breathing. But if you're breathing and can get on and off the plane yourself, you need to be mobile. Yeah, anybody can come. Absolutely. In fact, I've been on projects in Africa where 40% of the volunteers, over 100 volunteers, and 40% of them were in the pre-Avenus category. So I like that better than the non-Avenus thing. So.
Who was the youngest and who was the oldest on this trip, do you think, David?
The youngest, we had, 8 or 9?
Reese. Quinn.
Yeah, in the back, that kid was 9. And what was the oldest, Susan? Chris was 80 or something? 78? We just had a volunteer, 85, with us in South Carolina. Yeah, anybody can come. Yes. She's saying that our Maranatha, we led the remodel of the bathrooms here as a Maranatha project. And Maranatha framed up the fellowship hall here, I guess, back in the day before I was with Maranatha. So, yeah, and there's another project in May that's going to put the TNG ceiling up in that sanctuary. So, all right.
Questions? Okay, so, oops, I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, so here's some, they talked earlier about the benches. This is what the benches looked like when we got there. They'd had somebody local make all the benches for them, and they'd been sitting wrapped up in this plastic, some of them mildewing a little bit on the edges for, I'd say, probably several months at the least. I don't know how long? A week. Oh, okay. It's just been raining a lot. So somebody handed a machete, that her name is Kim, and she was going along cutting all the tape for us, and that's what they look like afterwards. So they had we had the first church service in the building there, so that was really special. And you can see it's packed to the gills. This is Mark Bramblett, who helped bring some of the bags over for. Oh, it was the other Mark. You're right. Yeah, that Mark Bramlett's in the back there with the camera around his neck. You're right. And this is Dr. Mark. And this little girl here has Down syndrome, and she kind of just liked to come snuggle with whoever had let her. So she was pretty sweet. Local choir that came to sing for us, the kids getting up to do special music, and Dr. Mark giving the sermon for us. Those kids loved to sing. They really did love to sing. So there's the school choir. We were going to go back out there for our second Sabbath there, and it rained really hard, and we figured our buses would not make it out, so we did our own little church service at the hotel. Kind of did kids redoing one of their skits. Okay, medical clinic. So there were three prongs to the mission trip we went on. One, we covered the VBS and the children's services, and then there was building the school rooms. But we also did a medical and dental clinic while we were there for, I think it was three days. Medical and dental clinic. Sorry, I think I echoed a little bit there. Some people had brought a bunch of vitamins and Tylenol and those sorts of things. So we used one of the classroom blocks. We set the pharmacy up in the left, the dental clinic up in the middle, and the medical clinic up on the right. Dr. Mark went out and gave some kind of health seminars for the locals under the mango tree. How do I know that's a mango tree? All the trees in Zambia are mango trees. I'm kidding, that's not true. But it certainly seems like everyone you run into is a mango tree. Oh yeah, the kids I've got some pictures at the end of the kids climbing around in them. Lots of mangoes. We did. They were just coming ripe, and we had mangoes for almost every meal. They were wonderful. Wonderful mangoes. What? Anybody else have something? Yes, absolutely. Take your blender with you. Make a mango smoothie. Get some of the local goat's milk, and you'll be really set. What? Bring a charger and your own power outlet. We had a bunch of people waiting out front, and one of the older kids decided to go out and kind of show them some stretching exercises and some things while they were waiting, so they didn't get quite so restless out there. This was the medical clinic. We had almost all of the older girls come in and volunteer and help us out, taking blood pressures and temperatures and doing some screenings. We had a pair of twins there. That was kind of interesting, trying to figure out who was who. What?
Everything had to be done through an interpreter.
My dad said everything had to be done through an interpreter. Yeah, almost nobody of the older adults spoke English. We end up with some younger college-age kids once in a while who did, but most of the adults did not. There's the big line waiting outside our medical clinic. Kids goofing off. This young woman had to have a small procedure to remove something from her arm, and that is Mark Bramblett. I got that one right that time. He was removing that for her. One of the little girls, I loved the dress that her mother made for her. I'm assuming it's her mother that made it for her. You would make a dress like that. Here's the dental clinic. There were a lot of people that needed to have teeth removed, and all ages too. There's the dental challenges there were pretty extensive. I'm going to let Ron talk about this one.
Well, you might know more about it, but was he maybe 8 or 9, had this on his hand. He also had a mass on his neck, and we've talked among ourselves as like, hey, is there some way that we could help this kid out? So I'd like to talk more about that sometime if there's, I don't know. Anyway, our hearts went out to his mom and him, and wasn't anything we could do with our clinic, but we hopefully made their day a little brighter somehow. And so there's needs just besides food and water and lodging, that there are even bigger health issues, and just for a young kid it was pretty tough spot to be in. So anyway, yeah, I don't know what's up next.
Yeah, one of the best things I think we did, as far as medical care goes, there wasn't a lot we could do, giving out vitamins and, sending them over to the dental clinic to pull a tooth, Tylenol, and maybe the occasional set of reading glasses. But one of the big things we could do was we set up in the pharmacy a prayer corner. And we had prayer for the young man that Ron just talked about and his mother. And not everybody got medication, not everybody got their tooth pulled, but I think every single person that came through our clinic went to the prayer corner. And that was, of all the things we could do, I had my boss, who's a psychologist, say, did you do any mental health care while you were there? I said, well, we prayed with them. And so I think that was probably the biggest contribution we made, was just being able to pray with them. So, oh, this is a picture of one of the wells there. Okay. It isn't. Okay. I did not know. Oh, okay. So this was the one behind the medical clinic, which is why we got a picture of it. So. Nice. So, okay, who's doing this part? Ron.
Oh, yeah, I get to talk about the animals. So we'll just, real quick though, Maranatha, Susan, David, they're employed by them. They moved to our area. They twisted our arm, and we went to Zambia with them, right? No, they didn't have to twist it that. But let me just say about Maranatha is, if you ever go on a trip, it's highly organized. They don't throw you down on a mat under a tree to sleep at night. I mean, we had air conditioning, even though it was a long ride. It was worth it to go back to where we were staying, get a hot shower in an air-conditioned room. You're ready to go the next day. It was, and to go on a Maranatha trip, as far as the cost to Maranatha, is really reasonable. You want sticker shock? Buy a ticket to Lusaka, though. It was a Christmas time, and it was, but wouldn't trade it. I'm glad I spent the money. But, you know, they build these churches to last. They build the schools to last. They put in great wells, and so they're really helping people out. If you're giving people, I'm supposed to be talking about the animals here. Look at that, but I'm not. So if you can lead people to Christ, you can give them an education and have clean water. Those are two amazing things that Maranatha are providing for people. So just a great experience, and are helping people around. So you have an option to go on an excursion afterwards. Unfortunately, Susan and David had to leave the trip early to go be with his dad, and we were sad to have them go. But Maranatha has great people to fill in the gaps, right? The trip went on without them. You guys were missed, but it went great. So you have great people working behind you. If you play sports, how deep is your bench? Maranatha's bench was really well. It was in good standing on this trip. So off we went to southern Zambia and down to Zimbabwe and Botswana. And this is one of the most amazing pictures of this little bird. And we're estimating at least 100 colors if you count all the hues. But these lions had partied all night. And so Susan told me, though, our driver on this trip in Botswana, his name was Cobra, and he says, well, you know, we're not really supposed to go off the main trail, but we are because there's lions. And then I hear that that's just to get better tips. They all go off on wherever they want. But it was pretty exciting to be 20 feet away in an open vehicle from lions. So I was pretty happy they had partied all night and weren't really interested in me. So, but that was pretty early on. So there's what we're in. So a lot of protection there, right? I mean, and yeah, that's bait. There's Ron bait and Chris bait and Becky bait right there, right? So this is the award-winning picture, though. I never been on a safari, and I thought, oh, we're going to go to the top of the hill, and we're going to look over the vast plains, and we're going to see all these animals. And no, it was these guys have radios, and they're talking to each other, and when leopard gets sent over the radio, you go. So you're watching the bushes because they'll slap you aside. And we got to I call it the leopard tree because there were two of them there. And that is puncture weed. And it was everywhere in that park. And but it was so amazing to see this animal up close. And another one was up in the tree with an impala, and it dropped down out of the tree. And it had to retrieve it and get back up in there, but it was hard to get great pictures. But Kim took some great pictures of these, and yeah, it zoomed in, but literally, it's from that wall to me. It's not that far. It's not zoomed in that much. But yeah, and giraffe, they were crocodile. So the first part of the safari was in the highly protected vehicle that you saw. Then we got on a boat, and we're on the Chobe River, and then the hippos out. There's a great one, and they are as big as you imagine, and So then the next day we went to one of the 7 wonders or 8 wonders of the natural world, Victoria Falls. And I could sit here and talk to you and show you as many pictures. It won't really truly describe what it is. So it's in 2 different countries, Zambia and Zimbabwe. This is getting across the border into Zimbabwe, and it doesn't show it in this picture, but it says enter, and I wanted to put in front of it slow enter because it took us hours to get through here, but Maranatha staff did a great job getting us through here, so you just made the best of it, and it was worth it. And but you spend a couple of hours getting your passport approved and then when you actually go through the border, there's a little building with some people, and there's some bicycles and a table, and you're like, I got my passport stamped, and now I know I need to go, and you're like, no, you just go through now, right? You just go on through. So you just spent a couple hours, but now when you're officially going into the country, no one even looks at your passport. And more water coming over the Zimbabwe side of the falls, and the Zambian side's a little higher. And so there wasn't a lot of water there, but it reminded me a little bit of Palouse Falls, just because of the big rock formations, not a bowl shape, but a long straight cut across there, and an amazing place to visit. It was a great way to end the trip, and any of you that know about Buc-ee's, he made it to Zimbabwe right there. Buc-ee's on the hat. So, and this is one of the buildings where we stayed. What is this? The first night, I think. And this building is steel, but it has a thatch type roof on it, and I talked to one of the local guys, and the insurance people don't like them so well, I don't think, because I think they'd burn pretty easily. But amazing food, and plenty of bottled water, and buses that were air conditioned, and it made the workout in the hot a lot better. Oh, checkpoint along the road, and if anyone else wants to say anything, some extreme poverty. That's a small termite mound right there, and they just kind of farm around it, from what I saw, and I don't know if it's totally true, but it's a great story. They say that there's more animals by weight underground in Africa than there are above ground. So I don't know. It's good, and some of the lots of bicycles, really heavily loaded. Not that one, obvious, but I will tell you that they're plowing with the cattle, and that got us to the window every time, I think. There'd be a guy at the plow, and then one with a whip there that you can kind of see in the air. And they were coming. Does it rain much more? Or is it still real dry? So good, because it had been pretty dry, and so the rain was good, even though it made travel difficult. They needed the rain for their mainly maize, and they grind it up and make a meal out of it. So there's our kids that helped us out, and posing for a picture. But meeting the local people in Zambia and having those experiences, meeting these kids and their families was an exciting and rewarding thing as well. So, yeah. Yeah, and Christmas Day we had a little party, and the kids decorated some cookies to give away, and cooking out at Sala. Lunches were wonderful, and so Gerald and Debbie and Attila there cooking. So Attila's originally from South Africa. Gerald on the left, I believe, Zimbabwe originally. Yeah. And Debbie's from South Africa. But Attila is a trained chef. And all the volunteers except for him and his wife were from the U.S., but they currently live in London, and he's making a lentil burger there that were out of this world. The bottle of oil there didn't hurt it. No, he was a good cook and interesting guy to talk to. So, and more of our group. You know, even though we didn't get to go back out to Sala on that second Sabbath, we had our own, and the testimonies of the people that were in our group were amazing. And I don't know, I think we would have been blessed if we had been at Sala, but I was really blessed by our church service just staying together. So, you know, it works out in mysterious ways sometimes, and but that's the changing area there, that white tarp. And when the sun's at the wrong angle, it is not very private at all. But they were having a youth rally there, and that was one of the changing areas. So in Livingston, down where Victoria Falls, there was a little market, and did you take this, Becky, or did? Yeah. Becky befriended this lady and bought some items from her, and the old sewing machine and all the colors and things that, you know, it was fun. So right smack in the middle of our trip down to Livingston from Lusaka, there's a pizza place, and felt like you were at Domino's or anywhere else. So it was a nice break, and it was good pizza. So Becky, Becky wants to. Yeah, this is Becky's place right here. This is the Cook Shack.
Okay, so I totally loved trying to talk to people about what they ate and what they wore. I don't know why I was into that, but they eat this 3 meals a day. It's called Shima, and it is cornmeal. They call it mealy meal. I don't even know why. I look at you because you know all this so much better than I do. But what I loved is I would go in there and I would say, well, can I try to stir that stuff? And she's like, sure. And she has her knee up there, and so I get my little knee up there, and I try. I can't even stir it. I can't. Her arms don't look that big, do they? And she's just stirring it and stirring it. And then what they do is it's really, really thick. And then they put it on your plate. And I watched them. And what they do is they'll get a little handful, and they just roll it in their hand like this. They roll it, and then they dip it in, they call it relish. At least, say it again.
When they switch the R's and the L's, you have the Hori skillet. So it's called rearish.
Okay, so anyways, so I was fascinated by all that. And then one of the ladies that worked in the little cook shack for the workers, I told them I wanted one of their, this is called chitenge, and I wanted one, and I agreed on a price, which was cheap, and the next day she brought me one. It wasn't this one, but yeah, super, super cool. So, and then another lady from this cook shack took me to her house and showed me where she lived, and maybe I was breaking rules, I don't know. But I went out there, and she showed me how they grind their corn. You know, they have one of those grinders, and I don't know. I thought that was fun. So, yeah, there she is.
Kids in the mango tree. And that's the last one. Yeah, that's corn.
Yeah, it's a type of maize, yeah. All right. Well, does anybody else want? I want to tell one more miracle story because we had a third one, and maybe there was more. So our luggage got wet. Paper products make it. The coloring sheet that we can divide into 4 pieces. But Debbie, one of the Maranatha workers, we're crossing over from Zambia into Zimbabwe to see Victoria Falls, and she's walking, and it was quite a ways to walk, but a taxi came by with one of our group, and they said, hey, do you want to get in with us? And so she got in, And when they got over to Zimbabwe, somehow she got distracted and had left her purse in that taxi. And so it goes back across back across, and you know, you're like, she realizes it, and she is just beside herself, and she figures out a way to get a ride back over there. And she's like, I have to find my purse. Has anyone seen my purse? And David had shared with me that the taxi drivers in Livingston are pretty honest, because if you're getting ripped off, the tourists aren't coming back, right? They're going, so someone says, well, I saw someone put a purse in that bus. And sure enough, this driver had put her purse back into a bus, not our bus, but a bus. And someone that was standing there had happened to see it, and she reached in there and was able to get her purse back out. So, and you know, and then her whole day was a lot better. But, you know, if that bus had driven away, if you hadn't gotten the honest taxi driver, someone hadn't seen, you know, it was like it, and so it was super awesome that it worked out that way. And anyway, I think all of us that went were like, Maranatha trips are awesome. Helping someone else is awesome. 13-hour flights are not awesome, but it's worth it. And yeah.
I wish I could have got a picture of this, but I saw a woman walking. She had a little baby on, you know, in the fabric, the way they drape it over the shoulder and then tuck the baby in. And then she had a toddler on her back. And, she had a toddler on her back, the baby on her front, and packing stuff on her head. I just marvel at the strength of these women. And they work in the field all the time. And whole families out there with hoes and stuff trying to take care of their corn, because that's what they live on. So anyway, the need is great. It was a great experience.
It's getting kind of late. We're at about an hour mark. We do have a video of the kids singing. Do you guys want to see it, or do you just want to go? You want to see it? Okay. Let's see. Can we get the volume on it, Ross? Let's see. It worked earlier, I promise. We tried it. Yeah, you can come in at any time. There it goes. This is the high school group. They sang for us. We got treated to a lot of songs like that, so we just had to share a little bit. With the girl on the left with the glasses was the head girl of the school. She was the valedictorian. We heard a entire speech from her. She even had a message for David Witch, which I'll have to share with him sometime. Anyway.
I'm going to say closing prayer. Heavenly Father, it is a big world out there, and you've got lots of kids out there, and just thankful for all the opportunities that we've had, and that you love us so much. So help us to spread that love, and we just thank you for this time. Amen. I need to get a picture.
Yeah, thank you for coming.